When I was packing my things to go to the National Defense University, my fiance warned me with a cold face that if I went to Peking University, I should stay in the dorms and not come looking for her all day. Knowing she would be jealous, I didn't even look up and simply replied, okay. She didn't suspect at all that I had already changed my application and continued saying that she wanted. On the day school starts, we don't need to get married either. Childhood promises don't count. I paused for a moment, then nodded obediently without explaining to them. I was going to the National Defense University thousands of miles away from home, and I had long given up on her. I would no longer have even a shred of expectation for her. After all, she and my purpose were the same, to completely get rid of each other and never meet again. Just yesterday, I went to the high school office to see Teacher Chen. I've made up my mind to study, but I want to exchange the Peking University quota for the classified major at the National Defense University. The late autumn wind carried a chill, and my thin body stood straight, my gaze exceptionally firm. Teacher Chen was dazed for a moment and then became ecstatic. Student Yi, you've finally come to your senses. I thought that for Jia Yunshu. You were going to give the Peking University spot to your cousin, but the situation for the classified major at National Defense University is very special. You must erase your identity and remain anonymous. Have you discussed it with your family? No need, I can decide for myself. When I heard the word family, a flash of pain crossed my eyes, but I quickly felt relieved. When I completely disappear from their world, perhaps nothing will ever be stolen from me again. Simply because my uncle drowned in the river while saving me, my parents took my cousin home and said I owed him a life and should know how to yield. To make up for their debt, my parents gave all the good things to my cousin, even my own fiancé fell in love with him. Family, affection, and love have both been stolen. Now, to take away my spot at Peking University, my parents forced me to agree to Jia Yunshu, even proposing to exchange it for getting married. I thought all night on the small bed on the balcony and finally woke up. This time, I will not yield anymore but choose to sever ties with them, wanting no more involvement. The red maples were like fire, walking on the cold street. My back looked lonely. The surroundings were filled with blue-collar workers finishing work, riding bicycles with happy smiles. The noisy, bustling world felt out of place for me. A jeep stopped beside me, blocking my path. The window rolled down, revealing a cold, pretty face. Jia Yunshu, full of impatience, asked, "Did you explain it clearly to the school?" I remained silent. Of course I had, but not according to Jia Yunshu's order to give up the spot. Instead, I was going somewhere she couldn't find. Before I could answer, Song Jingnian poked his head out from the back seat, waving a pile of things. "Cousin, look, Sister Yunshu bought me so many things, clothes, shoes, and even a radio. She said I can't be looked down upon at Peking University." I stared at the necklace on Song Jingnian's neck. My expression changed drastically. My heart felt as if it were being pierced, blood spreading throughout my body. That was a memento left to me by my grandmother and also a token of love given to Jia Yunshu. I never thought she would favor Song Jingnian so much as to give the necklace to him. Jia Yunshu also noticed my gaze, and her eyes flashed with embarrassment but soon returned to calm. "Jingnian likes it. It's not anything precious anyway. I'll buy you a better one after we get married." My heart felt bitter. The necklace itself wasn't valuable. What mattered was the love it represented. Unfortunately, in Jia Yunshu's words, it became insignificant. Right, Jia Yunshu doesn't love me at all, so she won't cherish it. Hearing about getting married, Song Jingnian's eyes flashed with intense jealousy, and he deliberately acted aggrieved. "Sister Yunshu, cousin seems unhappy. Is he blaming me for taking his spot at Peking University? I'm sorry, it's my fault. I shouldn't have taken his things. I deserve to be unwanted." Jia Yunshu couldn't bear to see Song Jingnian sad. Her face turned as dark as water, and she glared at me fiercely. "Jingnian's life is already hard enough. You have everything. Why do you still want to argue with him?" She comforted Song Jingnian. "Don't worry, the spot at Peking University is yours and no one can take it away. Walk home yourself and reflect well until you think it through and apologize to Jingnian, otherwise I won't forgive you." After speaking, she stepped on the gas and left resolutely, leaving behind a cloud of dust. On the back seat, Song Jingnian shot me a smug, provocative look, his face full of schadenfreude. I coughed violently from the dust. "See, I said nothing and did nothing. But everything I do is wrong." I stood still for a long time until a maple leaf fell on my shoulder and my thin clothes felt a piercing chill. I once had nowhere to go because of my parents' favoritism, and it was Jia Yunshu who said that with her, the world would no longer lack love. Unfortunately, even the one who said she would stay with me forever. That woman has also had a change of heart. The sky was gloomy and I smiled bitterly. Partial parents, a faithless fiancé, I don't want any of them anymore. I had just returned home when I heard laughter and chatter inside. I looked up at the sky. The sunset clouds looked like an extremely ironic face mocking my lonely and desolate figure. Ever since my parents brought Song Jingnian home, I have seemed completely redundant. Just because my uncle saved me, I have to keep yielding from the beginning. With toys and clothes to my parents' love, and finally even my fiancé doesn't want me anymore. I am like a wandering ghost in this world, silently standing at the doorway. The laughter inside is like a sharp knife stabbing into my heart. Blood seeps into the floor beneath my feet, forming a huge shadow that drowns me. Pushed open the door and the laughter in the house vanished instantly, as if my appearance disturbed their family harmony. Mother Yi glanced at me and pointed to a low stool nearby on which sat a bowl of rice with only a few green vegetables. Meanwhile, their table had fish as well as beef. Since I was young, my parents said my cousin was growing and needed nutrition, so they gave the best things to him, forcing me to be sensible and give up my seat and my food. Now I can only live in the dilapidated small room on the balcony, eating discarded vegetable leaves. But my parents never considered that I am only half a year older than Song Jingnian and also need nutrition. Mother Yi stood up, deliberately placed a piece of fish in my bowl, and smiled. "This is your favorite dish, hurry up and sit down," I said expressionlessly. "Mom, I am allergic to fish. The one who likes to eat fish is my cousin." This time, Mother Yi didn't impatiently scold me for being troublesome like before. She stared into my eyes and for once looked kind. "Have you clarified it with the school? Give the Peking University spot to your cousin. Your grades are good. You can take the exam again next year." I remained silent. The night curtain fell and her tone became harsh. "How can you be unwilling? You owe your cousin your life. Giving up the Peking University spot is nothing. You should be more sensible." Even though I had experienced it many times, Mother Yi's biased attitude still hurt me deeply. Father Yi put down his chopsticks and suddenly slapped me across the face, his expression as angry as if I were an enemy. "How did I raise such an ungrateful son? If you don't agree, get out of this house immediately. I don't have a son like you." My head buzzed, and a bright red handprint appeared on my face. Facing my parents' angry gazes, I felt my body being carved by countless knives, and I trembled uncontrollably. Song Jingnian looked aggrieved. "Stop forcing, cousin. It's hard for me to watch. Maybe I am just not fated to study. Don't blame cousin. Blame only me for not having anyone to love me." My parents hurried forward to comfort him, promising they would definitely make me give up the Peking University spot and would also help him buy many gifts. Only then did Song Jingnian show a smile, looking at me with my pale face. "Cousin, I never thought about stealing your things. If you mind, I can leave." Father Yi flew into a rage and glared at me fiercely. "Are you satisfied now? You've turned the house upside down. Apologize to your cousin immediately." I wiped the blood from the corner of my mouth, my gaze sweeping over everyone. These people who are supposedly my blood relatives are now finding ways to drive me to my death. As Father Yi was about to step forward to hit me again, Jia Yun, who was nearby, spoke up, saying Zhu Yuan had already agreed to give up the Peking University spot and would go to school today to clear things up. Only then did my parents' expressions soften. Mother Yi huffed and stared at me, saying, "At least you're being sensible. Since your cousin is going to school, you should go find a job. Work to earn his tuition. Remember, you owe him this." I stared blankly at Mother Yi. How could this woman who gave birth to me say such cruel words? Mother Yi seemed indifferent to her son's reaction, commanding in an unquestionable tone, "Go work after the summer break. You're just idling at home anyway." My parents nodded in agreement. Then the family began discussing how to hold a banquet for Song Jingnian. After all, getting into Peking University was a great honor for the ancestors. No one cared about me standing nearby. My existence was like a trash can in the house, used when needed and discarded without hesitation when not. I don't know, when I lay down on the bed, my heart already numb with pain. Staying in this cold home felt so oppressive that I couldn't breathe. The bedsheet beneath me, used for over a decade, could only cover half my body and was moldy and damp. Yet Song Jingnian had a bright, spacious room with various toys and candies from the general store. I could only sleep on the narrow, rainy balcony. Wind, rain, and winter snow had persisted for 10 whole years. It was a scorching summer, but my heart was incredibly cold. I looked at the night sky, thinking that in another month I could leave this loveless place. Since this family doesn't need me, then I shall disappear forever. That night I had a dream of my childhood where my parents held me in their arms. They cared for me meticulously, their eyes full of love. Jia Yun, who was 2 years older than me, pinched my cheeks and said I was so cute. I felt as if I were immersed in warm spring water. I didn't want to wake up, but as Song Jingnian appeared like a nightmare, my parents' faces turned grim as they roared and screamed at me. Jia Yun also left me, walking further and further away. I cried out, "Dad, Mom, Sister, don't abandon me." I chased after them frantically, but beneath my feet was a bottomless abyss and I fell. Surrounded by despair and pain, I couldn't struggle. My parents and Jia Yun didn't look back, walking into the distance around Song Jingnian, while I was silenced forever in endless darkness. Fireworks outside woke me up. I opened my eyes, thinking I wouldn't be sad for them anymore, but deep in my bones, I still craved to be loved and recognized. Luckily, it was just a dream. A jeep drove into the yard. Seeing the tall man getting out, I hurried downstairs. "Zhu Yuan, I heard you got into Peking University. Not bad." The tall man was Jia Yun's adoptive father and an old family friend. Father Yi had once saved his life, which led to the childhood betrothal. Jai Jiangguo was the only one truly kind to me. Jai Jiangguo patted my head and looked at his daughter nearby, nodding. "At least you're sensible enough to know to set off fireworks to celebrate for Zhu Yuan." Jia Yun frowned. "Dad, these aren't for Zhu Yuan. Zhu Yuan said he doesn't want to study and is giving his Peking University spot to Jingnian. Jingnian will study hard and won't let everyone down." Jai Jiangguo's expression changed slightly. Just as he was about to scold her, I stopped him. I forced a smile and said, "Uncle, you just got home. Please rest first. I'll explain it to you another day." I didn't want Jai Jiangguo to pry, otherwise the secret about the classified major at the National Defense University would be leaked. I just wanted to leave quietly and didn't want to get too entangled with them. Jai Jongguo's face darkened. He glared at his daughter and left angrily. Only Jai Yun and I were left at the scene. Jai Yun said expressionlessly, "Don't tell my father about us getting the marriage certificate yet. Also, you better have a suitable explanation for giving up the Peking University spot. Understand?" I lowered my head and gave a muffled response, showing no reaction. To help Song Jingnian get into Peking University, Jai Yun was even willing to marry someone she didn't love. She was truly grand. Jingnian is young and can't handle being provoked. You'd better not mention this in front of him. Regarding the matter of getting the certificate and why you haven't apologized for yesterday yet. Before I could speak, Jai Yun was being overbearing. Jingnian will soon go to Peking University. You should give him some cloth and food stamps as a sincere blessing. Seeing Jai Yun constantly considering Song Jingnian, my heart felt as if it were weighed down by it. Older, making it impossible to breathe. Do you think I still have those stamps? With the way you and my parents pamper him, does he lack these things? Jai Yun was stunned. Only then, remembering my situation, and a flicker of complexity crossed her face. Don't worry, since I promised to get the certificate with you, I won't break my word. Jai Yun could only use marriage to comfort me. Sister Jai Yun, are you really going to marry cousin? Jai Yun's expression changed drastically and she suddenly looked towards the door. Song Jingnian was leaning against the doorframe, his face pale and looking utterly miserable. It's not like that. Before Jai Yun could even explain, Song Jingnian began frantically hitting his head against the wall with a pained look. I don't want sister to marry cousin. I like sister too. Song Jingnian acted extremely distressed. Jai Yun panicked instantly and shoved me aside to go and hold Song Jingnian. My parents followed them out. Seeing Song Jingnian's state, they were all frantic. The three of them quickly took Song Jingnian to the car and headed to the hospital. Before leaving, Jai Yun gave me a cold look and said icily, "Did you see? You provoked Jingnian on purpose, didn't you? I didn't expect you to be so sinister." Sensing Jai Yun's disdainful and disgusted gaze, my heart felt as if it had been struck by a heavy hammer. Whatever Song Jingnian wanted, he just had to act a bit sad and the whole family would revolve around him. All mistakes were caused by me. Jai Yun's angry expression kept flashing in my mind. I told myself not to be sad for a woman who doesn't love me anymore, but my heart still ached. Song Jingnian's little tricks could actually be seen through with just a little attention. Once it was Jai Yun who couldn't stand the family's bias towards Song Jingnian. When I was most desperate, she burst into the house, took me away, and told the entire courtyard that no one could bully me from then on. At that time, Jai Yun was truly good to me. I don't know when Jai Yun started to change. Her disgust for Song Jingnian gradually turned into pity. Song Jingnian is like my nemesis, always able to snatch everything away from me. I looked coldly at the departing car. This was the last time I would be sad for Jai Yun. Every gift, from a large wooden toy to a single autumn leaf, I treated the gifts Jai Yun gave me as precious treasures and couldn't bear to discard them. But now, they were like trash. I gathered all the gifts, placed them in the courtyard, and set them on fire, burying my love for Jai Yun in the flames. Just as the gifts were almost burnt out, Jai Yun returned to the courtyard and happened to witness this scene. Seeing the burning wooden toy, her face changed drastically, and a surge of intense panic filled her heart. Jai Yun's voice trembled slightly as she looked at me in disbelief. "Ziayuan, these are gifts I gave you. Burn them?" It seemed as if something had lost control, making her feel inexplicably anxious. I watched the wood burn until it turned into a pile of charcoal, then slowly turned my head to meet her gaze with extremely calm eyes. At that moment, Jai Yun felt as if the person in front of her was about to leave her. I took a breath. In the moment the gifts turned to ash, a certain obsession in my heart was finally let go. I no longer cared who my parents favored or who Jai Yun cared about. None of it mattered anymore. I had to walk my own path. The gifts got moldy, so I burned them. I instinctively wanted to come clean with Jai Yun and tell her I didn't love her, but remembering there were still over 20 days before I could disappear, I had to endure. Jai Yun nodded as if relieved of a burden. "It's fine to burn them, they weren't valuable things anyway. I'll buy more after we get the certificate." I smiled, thinking to myself that we wouldn't be getting the certificate and there would be no future. Jai Yun thought carefully, besides herself. Besides that, I had no other choice and it was impossible for me to leave. The worry from earlier was likely unnecessary. Jai Yun's expression returned to its usual loftiness and she furrowed her willow brows, looking displeased. "Don't keep a long face all day. Jinian lost his parents and has depression. He can't take any more stimulation. You have everything. There's no need to compete with him." I chuckled with a hint of irony and asked in return, "Then tell me, what do I have? My parents' love, my fiance's care. I don't even have a decent piece of clothing. Song Jinian has taken everything that belongs to me, so what else is there to give up?" Jai Yun, however, couldn't stand my complaining and became impatient. "Don't you still have your parents? And me, Jinian is in a lot of pain in the hospital right now. Go and apologize." I thought I had misheard. Song Jinian's depression was obviously faked, yet they all pretended not to see it. I said in a cold tone, "He has my parents' company and your care, along with a whole team of medical staff around him. If you don't go to the hospital, let's put off getting our marriage certificate." After saying that, she left in a huff. as if using the marriage certificate as a threat would make me unconditionally obey. I ignored her and watched the car drive away, my expression incredibly calm. I went back home wanting to pack my things and leave, only to find that in this huge house, there was nothing worth taking away. When evening came, my parents returned home and didn't give me a pleasant look, seemingly blaming me for upsetting Song Jinyan. My mother came in front of me with a serious face. Xiaoyuan, let Jia-yun go. Jinyan likes her too, and he's making a scene about committing suicide in the hospital. As his older cousin, you should be more generous. Even though I knew my mother's favoritism towards Song Jinyan reached a pathological level, I didn't expect her to be so shameless. Her words in the heat of summer felt like a heartless cold wind blowing against my face. My expression went numb as I stared into my mother's eyes and said hoarsely, "Mom, I am your biological son. You've always told me to give in to Song Jinyan." I agreed, but haven't I given up enough over the years? Any new thing in the house, the meat on the dinner table, new clothes for the new year, my own room, didn't I give them all to him? I gave up going to Peking University, and now I even have to give up Jia-yun. If he said he wanted my life, would I have to cut out my heart too? Mom, am I really your son? I could no longer control the anger in my heart and asked that soul-searching question. My mother slapped me across the face, her expression full of disappointment. That is your younger cousin. He lost his father because of you. Don't you already have enough? Your father was right. You really are an ungrateful person. This time, even if you don't want to give her up. You must, otherwise you're no longer my son. My mother left after throwing those cruel words at me. I leaned against the doorframe as the setting sun above seemed like a heartless, mocking face treating me like a huge joke. In their eyes, I was actually so happy. Not long after, Jia-yun returned to the courtyard and got straight to the point. Xiaoyuan, Jinyan's mental state is very poor right now, so our marriage registration will be delayed. She wasn't negotiating, she was commanding. Fortunately, having accumulated enough disappointment, I was no longer sad. With a pale face, I said every word with absolute seriousness. All right. Jia-yun didn't expect that instead of making a scene, I would agree so readily. For a moment, she didn't know what to say and stood frozen for a long time. I didn't look at Jia-yun. My gaze fell on the sycamore tree outside the courtyard, remembering when I was 11 years old, Song Jinyan framed me and my parents hung me up and beat me until I was covered in wounds. Kicked out of the house, lonely and desperate, I crouched under the sycamore tree and cried. It was Jia-yun who walked up to me, reached out her hand and said with a gentle smile, "Come home with me." At that time, she was like a light illuminating my dark life. From then on, my life had something to lean on and hope for. Jia-yun wanted me to get into Peking University to fulfill my dream, so when the college entrance exams resumed in '78, I worked hard in secret and finally secured a spot at Peking University. I thought I could follow in Jia-yun's footsteps forever, but now it seems everything was in vain. It was all an illusion. Uncle Jia-yun before me had completely changed, forcing me to compromise step by step just so Song Jinyan could go to Peking University, even making me marry a man I don't love. What a great love it is. When Uncle Jia-yun said the marriage registration would be delayed, my heart was very calm and I no longer held any expectations for her. Now she says the registration is delayed, and next she will break her promise. By then I will lose my chance to go to school, and Uncle Jia-yun will certainly not marry me either, this is for sure. Fortunately, I did not give up my spot at Peking University. In 20 days, I will leave this heartbreaking place for the National Defense University and completely cut ties with them. Xiaoyuan, don't think too much. Since I promised you, I definitely won't break my word. It's mainly because Jinyan's mental state is unstable, so I don't want to stimulate him. Seeing my calm and quiet appearance made Uncle Jinyan feel flustered, so she couldn't help but explain. I withdrew my gaze from the sycamore tree and suddenly asked, "Sister, do you still remember what you promised me under the sycamore tree when I was 11? Uncle Jinyan's expression changed slightly, as if she remembered something. A trace of guilt flashed in her eyes, but just as she was about to speak, a staff member came forward looking anxious. News came from the group hospital. Is that person self-harming again? Uncle Jia-yun frowned, no longer caring about me, and turned to rush to the car. Watching the departing jeep, I turned back to my room. That narrow balcony actually didn't have much. I burned the gifts given by Uncle Jia-yun. Besides a few old and thin clothes, it seemed that besides my life, my parents had never given me anything. They once gave a lot, but they handed it all over to Song Jinyan. Uncle Jia-yun was gone for a whole week. These past few days, my parents and she were all at the hospital taking care of Song Jinyan. I was happy to be at leisure, no longer needing to see Song Jinyan's disgusting face or face my biased parents. I found Jiangguo, hoping to exercise and adapt to the National Defense University in advance. Since I decided to join the classified major, I will face many dangers in the future. Jiangguo didn't think much of it and felt I was being proactive, so he taught me without reservation. Another week passed. Today I was exercising in the courtyard, covered in sweat, but feeling refreshed, I cut my hair into a buzz cut. Uncle Jia-yun once said she liked boys with an artistic temperament, so I kept a literary hairstyle. Now, I only live for myself. After cutting my hair, I seemed like a different person. Jai Jeongguo watched and sighed with emotion. This is the true temperament of a soldier. Although Jai Jeongguo didn't know why I was training, he vaguely guessed something, so he didn't point it out. Young people should solve their own problems. However, the neighbor, an old friend, was being ridiculously biased. He was on missions outside all year round and found it hard to intervene. If I needed help, he wouldn't mind providing some convenience. My peaceful life was finally broken by Song Jinyan's return. I was doing horse stances in the courtyard when I looked up and saw my parents and Uncle Jai Yun surrounding Song Jinyan, walking into the courtyard laughing and talking. Song Jinyan was leaning close to Uncle Jai Yun, extremely intimate. My parents nearby pretended not to see and instead seemed happy to see it happen. Uncle Jai Yun didn't object either. Only noticing my gaze did she think of something and hurriedly pushed Song Jinyan away. He immediately became unhappy and said, "Sister, do you despise me?" Uncle Jai Yun looked embarrassed and could only let Song Jinyan continue to lean on her. Song Jinyan walked into the house and glanced at me, his eyes full of provocation and mockery. My expression was calm, as if these four people had nothing to do with me, and I focused on my workout. Unknowingly, an hour passed. I finished my workout and exhaled deeply. A rare cool breeze blew. I closed my eyes, enjoying the rare comfort in the courtyard. National Defense University. At this moment, a trembling voice came from behind. I opened my eyes and saw Jai Yun holding a magazine, a flash of panic in her eyes. Jai Yun had accompanied Song Jinyan back to the room and accidentally saw a National Defense University magazine on the small bed on the balcony, and an extremely uneasy feeling welled up in her heart. Feeling uneasy, she hurried downstairs to ask, "Why are you looking at National Defense University materials?" Facing Uncle Jai Yun's questioning, my expression was calm and I didn't explain immediately but picked up a towel to wipe my sweat. "Speak up." Uncle Jai Yun grabbed my hand, her body trembling slightly as if she were losing the most important thing. Gently pried away the small hand I had once wanted to hold countless times. At this moment there was no ripple in my heart. I smiled and said, "Just looking around." Uncle Jai Yun stared into my eyes, seeing that I didn't seem to be lying, and believing I wouldn't lie to her, she let out a sigh of relief and nodded. "Actually, there is nothing much worth seeing. Given your physical condition, you aren't suited for the National Defense University. You'd be better off studying hard and retaking the college entrance exam next year. Anyway, your grades are good, you have a chance." I was non-committal. "Do you think I still have a chance? My parents want me to go work and earn money after the summer to support my cousin's studies. I'll be leaving soon." Uncle Jai Yun's expression changed and she hesitated, feeling as if she owed me lately. Her tone softened. "Don't worry, I won't let you go work. As for the money, you don't need to worry." I have to say that family is truly happy. I could naturally see the panic in Uncle Jai Yun's heart, but I didn't think it was love for me. It was just a bit of guilt. I believe that as long as Song Jinyan makes a scene, my biased parents will definitely force me to work to earn money, and Uncle Jai Yun will also stay silent. Fortunately, I stopped caring long ago. Seeing my silence, Uncle Jai Yun thought I was jealous and tried to touch my head, only to finally notice that I had cut my hair into a buzz cut, which was completely different from my previous artistic look. For some reason, even though I was right in front of her, it felt like I was about to disappear. She already had a feeling of losing control. Ziayuan. On the second floor balcony, Song Jinyan happened to be watching the two below, his eyes shooting out thick resentment. I went to bed very early that night, not only because I didn't want to see my biased parents' meticulous care for Song Jinyan, but also because I was exhausted from the day's training. The next morning, I left home for school. In the teacher's office, I saw a heroic man in military uniform. His whole body exuded a resolute aura that naturally made people feel good about him. Other party introduced himself as a teacher from the decryption major of the National Defense University. This time, besides his mission, he was there to take me to the school. The decryption major of the National Defense University is very special and belongs to early admission, so it doesn't follow the normal process and has no admission letter. Students are personally escorted by university teachers to a mysterious place for training. After finishing the handover, the teacher said he would come back to the school to pick me up in a week. On the way back, I thought of the teacher in his military uniform and felt a deep yearning. In the future, if I study hard and serve the motherland, I will become like that too, right? Though home is cold and devoid of love, I have found hope again, looking forward to the day I go to the National Defense University. When I returned to the courtyard, it was getting late. I didn't know where my parents had gone. I went back inside and saw Song Jinyan sitting on his small bed, looking at me with a condescending gaze. "Cousin, it seems sister likes me more," Song Jinyan mocked with a fake smile. "See, as long as I want it, everything of yours becomes mine, so why are you still staying in this house? Why don't you just go die?" I already had new hope and didn't care about Song Jinyan's provocation at all. Song Jinyan originally thought he could provoke me and drive me mad, laughing wildly as he watched me kneel in pain like before. But at this moment, my expression was calm. It was like his punch landed on cotton and his eyes turned sour. Song Jinyan disliked this feeling. Recalling Uncle Jai Yun's promise to me downstairs during the day, he went mad with jealousy. Even if he self-harmed, Uncle Jai Yun only delayed the registration with me. She didn't truly belong to him. That's why he couldn't help but provoke me, but my attitude made him even more jealous. A flash of madness crossed Song Jinyan's eyes as he grabbed me, his voice filled with a chill. "Tell me, if you pushed me down because of jealousy, who would they believe? My face changed drastically, and just as I was about to break free, I was pushed down by Song Jinyan. "Help, don't kill me." Song Jinyan first slammed his head against the wall until his face was covered in blood, then ran downstairs and lay beside me. I fell from the second floor, my body slamming hard against the floor, making it impossible to breathe. Song Jinyan's screams immediately caught the attention of my parents and Jai Yun. The three of them rushed over, and seeing our condition, my parents kicked me in the stomach without a word and roared, "How could you do this?" To Jinyan, I stared blankly at my parents' roaring faces, and all the words I wanted to explain suddenly stuck in my throat. I closed my eyes, my heart feeling as if it had been stabbed. "I didn't expect your heart to be so cruel. You wanted to kill someone because of jealousy. You are worse than a criminal. I don't have a son like you." Yifu's eyes were red as he looked at his son like an enemy and kicked him twice. Mother Yi held Song Jinyan, crying heartbrokenly, "I'm sorry, I only went out for a while. I didn't expect this disaster. Jinyan, hang in there. I'll take you to the hospital right now." Song Jinyan's face was covered in blood and he looked in bad shape. In reality, they were all superficial wounds, but his screams gripped the hearts of my parents and Jai Yun. Yet, from an angle the three couldn't see, he gave me a malicious sneer. Falling from the second floor, my injuries were much worse than his. I couldn't speak, and after being kicked several more times, my body curled up like a shrimp, but the physical pain was nothing compared to the wound in my heart. My parents never believed me. Even if I explained, it would be useless. They trusted Song Jinyan unconditionally. It took several minutes before I could stand up, my face pale and my body trembling uncontrollably. I couldn't help but look at the disappointed Jai Yun. Song Jinyan, looking pitiful, sobbed, "Cousin, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have pestered sister to stay with me. I know you hate me. If my death would make you happy, I'll give you my life. There's no need to make aunt, uncle, and sister sad." I looked coldly at Song Jinyan, watching his performance, then saw my parents' angry gazes, feeling a sense of darkness and despair. I was already used to loneliness and sadness, and I had already planned to give up my parents and Jai Yun to him. I didn't want these trashy relatives anymore, so why did Song Jinyan keep framing me over and over? Jai Yun slapped me across the face, her beautiful face icy cold. "I told you we would register our marriage. Why did you have to harm Jinyan? He's already suffered enough. Must you force him to death?" A bright red palm print appeared on my face, and blood trickled from my mouth as I stared blankly at Jai Yun. Like my parents, she believed Song Jinyan without limits. In their eyes, I was an atrocious person. I originally wanted to explain a few things to Jai Yun, thinking she might at least have some doubt, but now it seemed unnecessary. Jai Yun shook her head, her expression full of disappointment. "How can I feel safe registering our marriage with someone as unscrupulous as you? Yi Ziayuan, you are truly disappointing." The three didn't spare me another look as they took Song Jinyan to the hospital. Song Jinyan turned back and smiled at me, a smile like a demon crawling out of hell. Until the car disappeared, I could no longer hold on, spat out a mouthful of blood and collapsed. In the dead of night, my eyes were cold. I woke up with my body numb, struggled to crawl back home, and lay on the bed. After resting for a few hours, I regained some strength to apply medicine to myself. The night was as cold as water, but it was nothing compared to my frozen heart. My parents and Jai Yun's actions were like a blunt knife piercing a large hole in my heart. My already shattered mental world collapsed again. I was like an injured puppy licking its wounds on the dark balcony. My tears had run dry and my emotions had long since gone numb, leaving only a soulless shell. Right now, I only hoped that time would pass quickly. I didn't want to stay in this cold-blooded home for even a moment. This heartless home was like a bloody maw ready to swallow me at any time. I lay on the bed staring at the night sky, missing my late grandmother. In this world, no one besides her truly loved me. In a daze, I fell asleep only to be jolted awake by a basin of cold water. Before I even opened my eyes, I was grabbed by a massive force and forcibly dragged to the living room. My parents and Jai Yun had returned with Song Jinyan. Though his injuries were just superficial to them, my behavior was unforgivable. Father Yi kicked me hard. His face gloomy. "Yi Ziayuan, kneel down and apologize to Jinyan right now. If you don't get his forgiveness, you're no longer my son." In this cold home with heartless kin, my riddled heart shattered once again. My gaze swept over everyone, my parents' faces of disgust and hatred, Jai Yun's disappointed eyes, and Song Jinyan's inconcealable smug smile. These people, clearly my closest relatives, hurt me time and again. It was more chilling than dealing with class enemies. Clearly, it was Song Jinyan who framed me, yet I was being forced to kneel and apologize. In the past, to save our bond and seek approval, I would have compromised, but now, I utterly loathed my own identity. Why was I born into such a heartless family? Seeing my stubbornness, Father Yi's expression darkened and he kicked me again. He roared, "Do you really think you're not in the wrong?" I stumbled and fell to the ground, spitting blood again. Jai Yun's expression shifted and she wanted to step forward to help. Thinking of my actions, she felt that some punishment might still save me. She stopped Father Yi and shook her head slightly. Only then did he stop. My eyes flickered, thinking Jai Yun would help me, but her next words made me want to laugh out loud. Jai Yun furrowed her brows, her expression indifferent. "Looking at your current state, you aren't fit to register our marriage. If Jinyan hadn't been lucky, he probably would have died from that fall. As punishment, our registration must be delayed. To compensate Jinyan, I will hold a wedding with him first." I looked at Jai Yun in disbelief. What kind of punishment was this? Jai Yun noticed my mocking gaze and felt a bit guilty and annoyed. "It's not a real marriage. I just want to compensate Jinyan." my parents and Jia Yun stared at me, instinctively standing in front of Song Jinyan. To prevent me from hurting him in a rage. To their disappointment, I wasn't angry or obstructive. Instead, I gave a brilliant smile, spat out blood, and bared my teeth. Then, congratulations to you both, cousin and cousin-in-law. Are you finished? If there's nothing else, I'm going to rest. I walked away with heavy, difficult steps, not wanting to look at them ever again. Song Jinyan feigned a look of grievance. Cousin, you'll come to the wedding sister and I are having right, even if it's just for show. I'll be satisfied. I hope to get your blessing. Father Yi snorted. Don't worry, even if he doesn't want to come, I'll drag him there. Does he think he can do wrong? Without paying a price, Mother Yi shouted at her sons retreating back. If you don't come, then get out of this house. For some reason, Jia Yun didn't. See my usual jealous reaction, and a strong sense of unease welled up in her heart. She wasn't actually going to marry Song Jinyan, it was just a formality. In her mind, I had lost myself to jealousy and couldn't be allowed to keep going down the wrong path. If I could learn a lesson this time, maybe there was still hope. After the wedding, she would talk to me properly, but that cousin-in-law and the look of relief on my face were like a thorn piercing her heart. Why did she feel this way? After that, the three of them ignored me completely. They didn't care if I died from the fall, nor if I would run away. In their hearts, I cared about this home immensely and loved Jia Yun deeply. With the world being so vast, I had nowhere else to go. For the next 3 days, as expected, I didn't cause a scene, but stayed at home to recover. My parents and Jia Yun happily prepared for the wedding. The venue was at a state-run restaurant, which for people back then was extremely extravagant behavior, but to make Song Jinyan happy, my parents drained their savings and exhausted their efforts. The wedding time arrived and I packed my things early. I waited for the National Defense University teacher to pick me up. My parents and Song Jinyan had already gone to the state-run restaurant to receive guests, because Jia Yun is a soldier. She didn't wear a wedding dress. She walked up to me and said, Ziayuan, come with me later. My wedding with Jingyan is just for show, not a legal registration. Don't worry. I will still marry you. Jia Yun promised solemnly, just like the year I was 11 when my parents kicked me out of the house and I crouched under the sycamore tree outside the courtyard. It was she who brought new hope and promised never to leave, but how long has it been? Jia Yun has completely changed. My expression was calm. As I gave a faint hum, Jia Yun sighed in relief, truly fearing I would cause a scene at the wedding today, but seeing my state, she thought I must have learned my lesson. She thought I would be more obedient later. Jia Yun insisted on taking me to the restaurant. She didn't see the expression she wanted on my face, and her heart felt a wave of panic. I remained very calm while dealing with every word, as if the woman in front of me was no longer my beloved fiancé but a stranger. Just as Jia Yun tried to force me into the car, a guard arrived to report that the restaurant couldn't wait any longer. Only then did she stop, instructing me that I must show up, or else she wouldn't marry me in the future. Looking at her departing figure, I expressionlessly carried my woven bag out of the courtyard, just as Jia Yun's car left. The car from the National Defense University arrived at the courtyard. The teacher asked if I wanted to say goodbye to my family. I looked back at the courtyard, this place that held 15 years of pain. I didn't want to stay for another second. Biased parents, a betraying fiancé, I never wanted to see them again. No need, I said, and quickly got into the car. Upon reaching the classified major at the National Defense University, my true identity would be erased and I would remain anonymous for life. For the rest of my life, I don't want to be my parents' son, nor do I want to be Jia Yun's husband. I want to be myself and serve the country for life. The car passed the state-run restaurant and through the window. I saw my family standing at the entrance greeting guests. Happy smiles overflowed on my parents and Song Jingyan's faces, while Jia Yun looked bashful with a hint of expectation. 4 of them looked like a perfect match. As the car slowly left, the 4 people at the restaurant gradually disappeared from my sight. I would start living my own life. At the restaurant entrance, Jia Yun seemed to feel something and suddenly looked up, but the jeep carrying me had already gone. For some reason, a hint of panic flashed through her heart. The Yi parents were beaming, telling everyone about the double blessing. Song Jingyan not only got into Peking University, but was also marrying the compound's most beautiful woman. Jia Yun felt a bit uneasy. Whether it was the university slot or the marriage, these things should have belonged to Ziayuan. She only reluctantly agreed to cooperate with Song Jingyan's treatment, but hearing their tone, it sounded like it was only natural. Song Jingyan clung to Jia Yun, his gaze searching through the crowd. Why isn't my cousin here? He asked pitifully. Didn't he promise to come and give his blessings, or is he angry and doesn't want me to be happy? If I had known, I should have knelt and apologized to him. Song Jingyan started acting pitiful again. Father Yi's expression turned ugly as he snorted. That ungrateful thing, I really regret giving birth to that son. He isn't even 1/10,000th as good as Jingyan. Mother Yi nodded in agreement. Ziayuan is so unreasonable. He didn't even come to his cousin's wedding. Not to mention he bullied Jingyan before. And Jingyan was generous enough not to hold a grudge. He almost killed him a few days ago, and now who is he showing that cold face to? We must discipline him properly. properly when we get back. The Yi parents reached an agreement. On Jingnian's big day, one should show some grace. Song Jingnian added fuel to the fire with his head down. Maybe he likes sister. Right, I never thought about truly taking her away. I just wanted to fulfill my wish of getting married. I'll give her back after the wedding, if cousin is angry. Then let's not hold it. This tried and true method of playing hard to get once again ignited the Yi parents' anger. Thinking of my despairing and painful expression, listening to the Yi family. Parents' cursing voices, Song Jingnian was satisfied. Jia Yunshu kept staring outside and not seeing me for a long time. She became restless. The reason she agreed to the wedding was not to actually marry Song Jingnian, but to fulfill his wish. Jia Yunshu felt I shouldn't be so petty and would surely understand. After all, a life was at stake, but my indifferent expression involuntarily flashed in her mind. Seeing the wedding about to start and me still not there, Jia Yunshu couldn't wait any longer. And walked outside. Song Jingnian blindly stopped her. Sister, are you going to leave me? Jia Yunshu turned her head sharply, her cold gaze falling on Song Jingnian's face. In that moment, Song Jingnian was startled and forgot to feign sadness. He had rarely seen Jia Yunshu with such a terrifying expression. Jia Yunshu's mood was extremely disturbed. She kept feeling that something bad was happening, and a voice in her heart said she must go back. I'm going to pick him up. This time, Jia Yunshu ignored Song Jingnian and strode away. On the way back, she felt she had been negligent and should have explained clearly that it wasn't a real marriage, but just for show. She returned to the courtyard at top speed, rushed through the gate, and came to the balcony. Ziayuan stopped throwing a tantrum. Everyone is waiting for you. Jia Yunshu lifted curtain. The originally narrow and damp small balcony was now tidied up cleanly. That small folding bed was tossed in a corner, and the only low table used for studying was placed in the center with a note left on it. I don't want this home anymore. Jia Yunshu, let's never meet again. Those two short lines were like a heavy hammer, smashing hard against her heart. Jia Yunshu suppressed her inner panic and muttered to herself, Ziayuan must be joking. In her impression, I had nowhere else to go and couldn't bear to leave my parents and her. Jia Yunshu knew my character well. Enduring years of grievances was just to stay by my parents' side, longing to receive their love, but everything before her made her extremely uneasy. Jia Yunshu didn't give up and searched the courtyard. As time passed, she was alarmed to find that the traces that originally belonged to me were gone. The begonia flowers I planted for her in the courtyard at age 15 had disappeared. In my 17th year, the red ribbon I hung on the courtyard swing to pray for her was gone. Jia Yunshu hurried to the sycamore tree outside the courtyard. She remembered I liked staying under the tree most, burying my deepest secrets in the soil. My longing for my parents' love and recognition, as well as my secret crush on Jia Yunshu, all were in a small jar buried under the sycamore tree. But seeing the scene before her, Jia Yunshu was thunderstruck. The soil had been dug up, the jar smashed, and secrets inside had turned into a pile of ashes. At this moment, Jia Yunshu finally realized a serious problem. I had really left. Jia Yunshu squatted under the sycamore tree, staring blankly at the pile of ashes. My departure actually had early signs, but unfortunately no one cared. An unloved child would leave so resolutely, burning the gifts she gave, destroying beautiful memories, without taking a single sycamore leaf. Jia Yunshu only had a fake marriage with Song Jingnian to fulfill his wish. She never said she was abandoning me. Why did I have to leave? Even now, Jia Yunshu couldn't figure it out and wouldn't understand, only feeling the air was a bit stifling, pressing uncomfortably against her chest. The wind blew and sycamore leaves drifted down. Jia Yunshu looked up blankly, as if seeing the child who once squatted under the tree, abandoned by his family and crying sadly. She reached out and said with a smile, "You won't be lonely anymore." That night under the cool moonlight there was light in my eyes, but I don't know when it started, but I became numb, like a walking corpse, returning to my original state. Perhaps it was when she proposed exchanging the marriage certificate for the Peking University slot. I remember my shocked expression at that time. In fact, Jia Yunshu always knew I had a crush on her, but she didn't respond for fear of gossip. Until the Yi family parents asked her to persuade me to give my Peking University spot to Song Jingnian. Jia Yunshu knew she shouldn't, knowing clearly its importance to me, but to find a suitable marriage excuse, she proposed an exchange. She didn't expect me to agree without hesitation. Jia Yunshu thought with my excellent grades I would succeed in the exam again next year. That way she could shut everyone's mouths, and they could be together normally. Unfortunately, I misunderstood and chose to leave everything. He won't go far, Jia Yunshu thought as she stood up abruptly, feeling I had nowhere to go. She mobilized all her connections at bus and train stations, determined to find me, but after half a day, even with the district compound's help, there was no news. I had vanished into thin air. The matter alarmed Jai Jiangguo. A daughter's abuse of power was a serious issue then. He rushed home and saw her dejected figure, his angry words turning into a sigh. Jai Jiangguo guessed her thoughts and first cancelled the search, leading to her great mistake. Then he voiced his guess. Zhu Yuan has gone to study. Jia Yunshu looked up in disbelief. Isn't the admission notice coming in half a month? Jai Jiangguo sneered. Who told you he went to Peking University? He applied to the National Defense University. Jai Yunshu was shell-shocked. Jai Jiangguo couldn't stand his daughter's decadent state. Recalling my treatment, he said, I don't know what you're sad about. You didn't cherish him when he was here. Now that he's gone, who is this grief for? for? Wasn't Zhu Yuan's departure forced by you all? Jai Zhongguo's words made Jia Yunshu's body go numb. She couldn't refute a single word. Countless images flashed back. All these years the Yi parents were abnormally biased towards Song Jingnian. I was in agony. She knew and used to be on my side, but what did she do? She didn't stand by me and instead abetted them. She remembered 3 days ago when Song Jingnian said I pushed him. I looked at her with that same expectant gaze, hoping for a shred of kindness. Jia Yunshu not only believed Song Jingnian without hesitation but also viciously slapped me. That slap shattered all my expectations. Jai Zhongguo knew his daughter wouldn't listen and didn't bother to say more. Seeing the behavior of the Yi parents and his daughter, I should have left long ago. Zhu Yuan is a good child. He'll only be happy away from them. It offered to help, but the boy was stubborn and hoped for the Yi parents' love, leading to too much misfortune later. If it were me, I'd have left long ago. Jai Zhongguo left. As a chief, he had no time for personal drama. Jai Yunshu stood in the living room, recalling my reactions. Perhaps I gave up the moment of the exchange. She remembered me asking her that night. Do you still remember the original promise? Jai Yunshu squatted on the ground in remorse. The night was cold and hurried footsteps approached. Mother Yi rushed in anxious. Yunshu, Jingnian thinks you don't want him, so he's going crazy at the restaurant. Jai Yunshu heard her worrying only about Jingnian and felt agitated. She looked up. What's the use of him looking for me? You only care about Song Jingnian. You even know where your own son went. Mother Yi was stunned and embarrassed. What are you saying? How could I not care about Zhu Yuan? He's her own biological son. Jai Yunshu stared at Mother Yi, trying to see a hint of concern in her eyes, but unfortunately there was none. Mother Yi had been impatient with me from start to finish. Jai Yunshu felt immense disappointment. Looking out the window, she said indifferently, Xiaoyuan has gone to school and will never come home again. Mother Yi's face changed instantly as she grabbed Jai Yunshu's hand, her eyes flashing with anger. What school? Didn't he promise to give his Peking University spot to Jingnian? No, the Peking University admission letter is still half a month away. From reporting, this child hasn't been good since he was young and loves to lie. When he gets home, I must teach him a lesson. Jai Yunshu's heart shook, feeling sorrow for me, the person. He's gone, yet his biological mother is still complaining. She suddenly lost all patience, shoved Mother Yi's hand away and said coldly, Xiaoyuan is going to National Defense University, not Peking University. Mother Yi's face turned ugly as she cursed harshly. Why should he go to National Defense University? What about Jingnian? We've already announced that we'll soon host a graduation banquet. What is Xiaoyuan thinking? Can't he stand to see Jingnian do well? No, you must call him back. No matter what, he must give up the Peking University spot. Mother Yi pulled Jai Yunshu's hand and walked out forcefully as if I had done something treacherous. Jai Yunshu wanted to break free, but Mother Yi's words made her fall silent. Jingnian slit his wrists and lost a lot of blood. Jai Yunshu's expression wavered. Helplessly, she could only follow Mother Yi to the hospital. After all, her departure had caused Song Jingnian's mental breakdown, so she bore some responsibility. On the way, Jai Yunshu had already decided to wait until Song Jingnian's condition stabilized to negotiate. She would no longer interfere in his affairs. Currently, Jai Yunshu only wanted to find me as soon as possible and tell me the truth. The two arrived at the ward door and were about to push it open when they heard Song Jingnian singing. It didn't sound like a depressive episode. He seemed in a good mood. For some reason, Jai Yunshu felt Song Jingnian's state was wrong. She recalled what I had said before about my cousin's depression being faked, that he wasn't sick but wanted to steal my things. Before, Jai Yunshu thought I was lying because I was jealous of Song Jingnian. Now that I had left in despair, she became more suspicious. Jai Yunshu stopped Mother Yi and shook her head slightly, signaling not to rush in but to see what Song Jingnian was saying. Father Yi had gone to get water, leaving only Song Jingnian. Song Jingnian didn't look sick at all. He sat on the bed with his legs crossed, laughing arrogantly. That Yi Xiaoyuan must be dying of anger. Mom and Dad were stolen by me. The Peking University spot was given to me, and now even his fiancé is mine. Mother Yi's expression was blank, filled with disbelief. She thought she had misheard. Jai Yunshu clenched her fists tightly, her eyes surging with overwhelming anger. What did she just hear? Song Jingnian had been faking his illness all along and admitted to wanting to steal everything from me. First the parents, then the Peking University spot, and finally her. Jai Yunshu felt a chill deep in her heart. She never imagined there could be such a vicious person in the world, calling me a bastard and saying the Yi parents were fools. Was this still the usually well-behaved Song Jingnian? Jai Yunshu turned to look at Mother Yi, infinite sorrow welling up in her heart. Just for such a beast, she had personally driven away her biological son. How laughable. Recalling my experiences during this time, Jai Yunshu wanted to slap herself twice. They were wrong, terribly wrong, played like fools by others. Especially Song Jingnian's last sentence about the rice being cooked. Jai Yunshu felt a chill down her spine. She could no longer control her anger and kicked open the door. Song Jingnian's smugness hadn't even vanished before his body stiffened and his eyes filled with extreme panic. Aunt sister, how long have you been here? Without waiting for Jai Yunshu to speak, Mother Yi stepped forward and grabbed his collar, her voice full of anger. Why did you lie to me? Song Jingnian knelt on the ground in terror, but his eyes were darting around, thinking of a way out. Mother Yi's face was ashen, unable to believe those were words a human would say. She had pampered Song Jingnian like her own son, even if it were even willing to pick the stars, thus neglecting me. But what did Song Jingnian do? He called his cousin a bastard and them fools. Mother Yi raised her hand to hit Song Jingnian, wailed and knelt on the ground, crying out, "Aunt, I was wrong. Those weren't my real thoughts. I was hallucinating. I dreamed. Being framed by my cousin and you guys not wanting me anymore, and sister also abandoning me, so I spoke nonsense. Oh, it hurts." Halfway through, Song Jingnian desperately used his head to smash against the floor. Mother Yi's expression changed slightly at the sight of blood, feeling distressed, and she instinctively wanted to help him. Song Jingnian noticed the change in her attitude. Was overjoyed. "I will personally investigate what you've done to Xiaoyuan over the years." Jia Yunshu's expression was cold. My departure had made her regain her rationality. To be able to become the youngest regimental commander in the sub-district, she naturally possessed great ability. Song Jingnian's face changed drastically. Just as he wanted to explain further, Jia Yunshu turned and walked out of the room. She suppressed a surge of anger. If Song Jingnian was a hypocrite, then many things from the past would be overturned. She dared not imagine that everything was self-directed and acted by Song Jingnian. How much grievance I must have endured, just thinking about it was terrifying. Using Jai Jiangguo's connections, she quickly found out Song Jingnian's background. One wouldn't know without looking. Jia Yunshu looked at the scandalous records in the files and was nearly driven mad with anger. Since Jia Yunshu was no longer partial to Song Jingnian, many people were willing to tell the truth. She even found a notebook in a hidden compartment in Song Jingnian's room which recorded his crimes. February 9th. My birthday, Dad gave me a pair of sneakers, but I think they're ugly. Why was I born into such a poor family? I wish Dad would just die quickly. March 12th. Dad finally died, and it was because he saved Yi Xiaoyuan. But why didn't he save Jia Yunshu? That way I could use the life-saving grace to enter the Jai family. However, the Yi family is also okay. Being fostered in the Yi family, the first thing I must do is drive Yi Xiaoyuan to his death. With him around, I will never be able to get everything. Fortunately, Aunt pities me. Every frame-up was successful. I'm so smart. Jia Yunshu flipped through quickly until she saw a diary entry from a few days ago, her beautiful face filled with rage. To drive Yi Xiaoyuan to his death, I deliberately pushed him down the stairs. I didn't expect the kid to be so lucky and not be crippled. It's okay, because of this, I can marry Jia Yunshu. Jia Yunshu's hand holding the notebook turned white, a raging fire burning in her chest, wishing she could tear Song Jingnian to 10,000 pieces. So everything I said was true. I suffered so much grievance. Recalling the year I was 11, Jia Yunshu couldn't stand how the Yi parents were biased, so she brought me home and promised to be good to me for a lifetime. But she didn't know when she also got lost and forgot her original intention. For many long days and nights, I lay on my old small bed alone, licking my wounds. A few days ago, when I was pushed down the stairs, Jia Yunshu originally had a chance to help me prove it, but unfortunately she slapped me without asking why. I left in despair and my world fell into darkness. Jia Yunshu showed the notebook to the Yi parents. At first, the two didn't believe it, but they recognized it was Song Jingnian's handwriting, and their worldview shattered. Song Jingnian saw the ironclad evidence and no longer dared to lie, kneeling before the parents, constantly admitting his mistakes. "I'm sorry, I shouldn't have lied to you. It's just because I was so insecure and afraid you'd abandon me. That's why I framed my cousin. Please give me another chance. I will definitely treat you well in the future." Blood flowed from his forehead, but the Yi parents looked on coldly. The content in the notebook was shocking, revealing an extremely cruel fact. The nephew they favored at the cost of giving up their own biological son was actually so sinister. The Yi parents looked at each other, and endless regret flooded their hearts. "How could I still do this?" Father Yi roared, kicked Song Jingnian away, and rushed forward to punch and kick him until he wailed for mercy. Mother Yi also joined in. They struck even harder. The more the Yi parents had loved Song Jingnian before, the more they hated him now. Jia Yunshu looked on mockingly. What was the point of waking up now? Song Jingnian was beaten until he was half dead, no longer having the strength to cry, lying on the ground like a dead dog. When the Yi parents composed themselves, they looked at Jia Yunshu, their faces full of shame. "Can you find Xiaoyuan? We have wronged him all these years and want to make amends as much as possible." Jia Yunshu didn't answer but looked at the night sky, her tone carrying a hint of confusion and pain. "So what if we find him? We lost him a long time ago." The Yi parents trembled, their eyes filling with tears. National Defense University Xinan campus was a classified restricted area. Besides the troops stationed there, it was a training base for selected professional talents from various regions. The campus was split in two. The troops were in the suburbs, while the core area housed a group of students. By now, the sun was high in the sky. The end of summer heat hadn't passed yet. The autumn tiger had arrived. A group of students in military uniforms were drilling, staring at the scorching sun. Their clothes were soaked in sweat, but they stood straight like green pines, looking forward. As students of the decryption major, besides learning algorithms, we had to train our bodies. It has been half a month since enrollment. moment, relying on Jai Yunshu's methods my once weak physique has held up until now. The food at school is much better than outside, although conditions in 1983 weren't great back home. Eating meat was a luxury. Since my parents gave everything to Song Jingnian, I could only eat scraps and sleep on a damp balcony. But since coming to school and getting proper nutrition, I have started growing taller. I look incredibly spirited now, my eyes bright, unlike that heartbroken, exhausted boy who could have collapsed at any moment. Now I have a different aura. When I first met the admissions teacher, I was impressed by their bearing. It seems the military transforms people. Surrounded by such resolute soldiers, there is no room for romantic thoughts. Military training lasts for 3 months, and I've adapted to the university rhythm. I do physical training by day and read at the library by night. I am in the decryption major. The future will be extremely harsh, and I cannot reveal my identity, becoming a true invisible person. Every decryption student is a precious talent. I cherish this hard-won environment. There are no biased parents here, no unfaithful Jai Yunshu, only the effort to study and serve my country. Now, even late at night, I am unwilling to leave the library, accompanying. Here are many other students from all over the country, all local top scholars. Having been ranked first in my county, I now feel immense pressure because every classmate is a genius with a fervent heart to serve the country. Late tonight, I reluctantly left the library, marveling at the vast ocean of books. One couldn't finish them in a lifetime, fortunately. Currently only focus on basic decryption knowledge, trying to preview before classes. The night was cool as I walked down the path. Stopping to look at the sky, memories of home flashed by. I have left now and may never go back. Their family of 4 should be doing quite well. When I first arrived, although I was completely disappointed in them, I still missed them. Homesickness is inevitable. But as time passed, the voices of my parents and Jai Yunshu gradually faded. Aside from occasional thoughts, there were no more ripples. By now, my feelings for Jai Yunshu are no longer so intense. I have friends in university too. Besides my 5 roommates, I also know Lin Kaiangxia. This girl from Beijing is very special. Her personality is completely different from Jai Yunshu's. She is enthusiastic and open, sometimes like a highly protected flower in a greenhouse, yet her personal abilities are very strong, especially her understanding of decryption, which is the best among the classmates I've seen. Lin Kaiangxia has been the school beauty since she entered. Although there is no rule against dating at the National Defense University, she indeed attracts the attention of many boys. Some say she comes from a good family in the big city, while others say she is just here to gain credentials and will leave soon. I didn't care about this. I was just accustomed to walking alone, but no one expected that Lin Kaiangxia would take the initiative to find me and express her interest. This shocked everyone and made me very speechless. As I walked to the entrance of the dormitory building, I saw a slender figure standing ahead, looking at me with a smile. Lin Kaiangxia was very proactive with me. It wasn't about romance, but mainly professional discussions. However, waiting at the dormitory entrance late at night was quite shocking in that environment. Boys returning to the dormitory one after another couldn't help but look over, their eyes filled with innocent smirks. I just wanted to turn around and leave. I also knew that Lin Kaiangxia's professional ability was very strong. She already knew the decryption major like the back of her hand before classes even started. She could be called a genius. The two of us met in the library. While other students were still immersed in the excitement of wandering around the campus, I liked to read in a corner. The reason why I was able to get into Peking University, besides my own intelligence, was also because of a good teacher. I never mentioned anything about this teacher to my family, not even to Jai Yunshu. She was no exception simply because the teacher's background was not good. He was confined in a cowshed, so people called him Mr. Cowshed. Mr. Cowshed knew astronomy and geography and knew many things, but this was an original sin, leading to him being labeled as one of the Black 5 categories. When Mr. Cowshed was seriously ill and no one saved him, the 11-year-old me was also kicked out of the house because of Song Jingnian's framing. The old and the young met in a ruined temple. Using my youthful body, I followed Mr. Cowshed's instructions to go to the back hill to gather herbs, almost falling to my death several times. Mr. Cowshed survived because of this. From then on, I liked going to the ruined temple to find him. Over time, Mr. Cowshed treated me as his last disciple, telling me that knowledge changes fate and that I should study hard. He knew much more than high school teachers and went much deeper, so his level of education was higher. Under Mr. Cowshed's influence, I gradually became a child with an independent personality who loved learning. Even I suffered extremely unfair treatment at home, I still maintained a kind heart and a belief in serving the country. This is the reason why I did not fall into depravity and can still persevere until now. The fundamental reason is that Mr. Cowshed had experienced too much suffering and taught me through his actions that no difficulty can defeat one. Unfortunately, Mr. Cowshed passed away after the college entrance exam, dying on a rainy night. I originally planned to tell him the good news of being admitted to Peking University. When I walked into the ruined temple, I only saw a decaying body. That night, I buried Mr. Cowshed on the back hill alone and left with a piece of jade pendant he had given me. At that time, I lost the only elder who cared for me and also lost a life mentor. I was in immense pain back then, and the only person I could rely was Jia Yunshu. But on that very day, Jia Yunshu said to exchange the Peking University spot for a marriage certificate. My world collapsed then. I lost Mr. Cowshed and was about to lose everything, so after experiencing great despair, I finally decided to live for myself and changed Peking University to the National Defense University. I occasionally take out the jade pendant to remember him. That was when Lin Kaixia broke into my sight, her eyes fixed on the jade pendant, looking extremely bright. I naturally knew that besides her beauty, Lin Kaixia also had a special status. It was said that Lin Kaixia was escorted to the school in a jeep when she entered the university. The leadership personally welcomed Lin Kaixia. Ever since she saw that jade pendant, she has been pestering me. Unlike the reserve of other female students, she is cheerful. She didn't take the rules seriously at all. Even at night, waiting outside the boys' dormitory building, Lin Kaixia could ignore the gazes of others. Looking at the handed-over notebook, I sighed in my heart. I felt it was necessary to speak clearly with Lin Kaixia. After taking the notebook, I stared into Lin Kaixia's bright eyes with serious expression. "Student Lin, please don't come looking for me anymore." Lin Kaixia was stunned, and her eyes immediately turned red. She hesitated to speak, finally lowering her head and giving a soft hum. She said nothing, but her emotions were expressed very strongly. I suppressed the pity in my heart and watched her leave. Currently, I only want to study in peace to serve the motherland and never thought about falling in love. Since that night, Lin Kaixia never sought me out again. After military training ended, the freshmen had a day of rest. Most people chose to leave school to go shopping outside. Freshmen at National Defense University, besides not paying a penny, could also receive 10 yuan as a monthly living allowance. In 1983, this was a huge sum of money. I didn't spend recklessly but stayed in the library as usual, studying knowledge related to the decryption major. Lin Kaixia sat opposite me and took a jade pendant from her pocket. It was exactly like mine, except mine was a dragon pendant. Hers was a phoenix pendant. This was a pair of dragon and phoenix jade pendants. "I am your fiancé." Lin Kaixia's words almost made me fall over in the library. The library fell into silence for a few minutes. As a student of the new era, I hated the engagement system, especially after being hurt by Jia Yunshu. My longing for love had become rational, and I didn't want ethereal romance. I must say Lin Kaixia was too bold. If it were a few years ago, she would have been locked up. In everyone's eyes, she would be a female hooligan who had to be sent to a hooligan study class. I took a deep breath to stabilize my emotions and shook my head with a serious look. "Student Lin, I hope you pay attention to the impact. We came to National Defense University to study and serve the country and people, not to fall in love. We have never known each other before, so there is no engagement, right?" I had clearly warned Lin Kaixia not to talk further or we would be summoned by the instructor. Lin Kaixia seemed to know that her words were excessive and would cause a very bad influence if spread, but after thinking for a few days, she decided to tell me the truth. She pointed at the jade pendant and told me a story. This pair of jade pendants was kept by her father and another old friend, with a promise that if the two parties had a boy and a girl, they would become in-laws. If they were the same gender, they would be brothers. Years passed, and Lin Kaixia's father never forgot the promise. Unfortunately, that old friend was sent for labor reform due to special issues and disappeared. Thinking she would never see that pendant again, Lin Kaixia didn't plan to get married and applied to National Defense University, who knew fate was so wonderful that she saw the dragon pendant around my neck in the library. After hearing Lin Kaixia's story, I fell into silence. I didn't think it was absurd. With Mr. Niu Peng's knowledge, he wasn't a local and must have had an impressive status. It's just unfortunate he was a victim of the era. I didn't know why, after his exoneration, Mr. Niu Peng didn't leave but chose to live in a broken temple like a wild man. No wonder Mr. Niu Peng had a strange expression when he gave me the jade pendant. Only now did I realize it was actually a token of betrothal. Logically, facing a fiancé with a good family background who could be a stepping stone to a bright future would be a godsend for anyone. However, having experienced the hurt from Jia Yunshu, I no longer believed in love. At National Defense University, if anyone has feelings, it can only be revolutionary sentiment. Hesitated for a moment and handed the dragon pendant to Lin Kaixia. I am not the gentleman's child. Had I known its importance, I wouldn't have accepted it. Now it is returned. As for the marriage you mentioned, let's forget it. Without giving Lin Kaixia a chance to explain, I stood up and left. Lin Kaixia sat on the stool, looking at the joined two pieces of jade pendants that formed a perfect circle. She felt very aggrieved. For some reason, after meeting me, Lin Kaixia felt that I was unique. My maverick temperament and eyes, which held a firm revolutionary belief along with a touch of faint sadness, were something she had never seen in her peers. My gaze was like an endless abyss one would fall into end just by getting close. Lin Kangxia held the jade pendant and walked to the window. The night sky above the library was beautiful. By the playground, the leaves of the plane trees seemed to have ignored autumn's call, still bursting with vitality. I returned to my dormitory and sat on the balcony, looking up at the sky in silence. I felt that I should focus on my studies and stay away from Lin Kangxia. After military training, cultural classes began. In an era where everything was being rebuilt, the students' thirst for knowledge was intense. They possessed powerful convictions and pure souls. Besides studying hard, I often kept up with my exercise. I encountered Lin Kangxia in the cafeteria several times. We both just nodded and walked past each other. Many had rumored our relationship was abnormal, and the instructor almost called us for a talk, but soon we drifted apart and the matter was dropped. Most boys felt relieved, thinking that a flower like Lin Kangxia shouldn't belong to anyone. One day, as usual, I was running on the playground when I suddenly stopped and looked ahead, my face instantly turning grim. It was her, Jia Yunshu. The moment she saw me appear, her entire attention was captured. She couldn't control her steps and walked toward me, but a small movement of mine made Jia Yunshu's face turn pale instantly. The boy who once relied on her and was full of happiness upon seeing her actually retreated a few steps. This was a psychological defense reserved for enemies. Jia Yunshu's heart felt as if a large hole had been pierced. She was so sad she couldn't breathe, her face filled with bitterness. Did I loathe her that much now? Jia Yunshu endured the heartache and stepped forward again, but I retreated, making her look extremely hurt. Ziayuan, before Jia Yunshu could speak, I coldly interrupted. Sister, this is school, mind the influence. Shock flashed in Jia Yunshu's deep eyes. Why were these words so familiar? She suddenly remembered what she had said when I rushed to share my acceptance to Peking University. She had instinctively kept her distance and told me it was the courtyard and to mind the influence. Jia Yunshu felt aggrieved, finally understanding my sadness back then. Pain flashed in her eyes. Jia Yunshu took a deep breath, trying to stay calm. Ziayuan, you left without a word. Do you really want to completely sever ties with me? Hearing this, my expression remained flat and I didn't argue, but that indifferent attitude stung Jia Yunshu's heart. She understood my meaning. Living in that loveless family, being forced to give up the best things. Giving up once meant giving up for life. I was in despair. Only by erasing my identity. Living incognito forever, never wanting contact. How much despair must one feel to make such a decision? Just thinking about it made Jia Yunshu's heart ache. But I had lived such a cruel life for over a decade. How could she have the face to ask me? If I hadn't left quietly, I would have been driven to death. Jia Yunshu raised her head, wanting to stroke my head like she did when I was little, but her arm froze in midair. Meeting my indifferent gaze, her mental world was struck hard again. I'm sorry. Thousands of words turned into a single I'm sorry. Jia Yunshu didn't know what to say. I looked at the sky for a long time, then my gaze on the plane trees by the playground. The image of being kicked out by my parents at 11 and crying under a tree surfaced. Back then, Jia Yunshu was like an angel bringing me new hope, but it was that hope that pushed me into the abyss. Even now, my heart still aches. I withdrew my gaze. My expression became firm as I stared at Jia Yunshu. If you are here to help Song Jingnian get back the Peking University enrollment, I'm sorry, but it's a done deal. I won't let him. Jia Yunshu's face changed drastically as she shook her head frantically. No, Ziayuan, I just came to see you. She desperately wanted to tell me that it was all a misunderstanding, that it wasn't that she didn't like me or didn't accept me, but recalling the mistakes she made during that time, she was too ashamed to speak. Since you've seen me, you can go back now. I don't want any contact with you, Jia Yunshu. Seeing that face reminded me of the pain from 6 months ago. I had finally managed to heal those wounds over half a year. Why did she have to come and provoke me again? Jia Yunshu's body trembled as if sensing she was about to lose me completely. She hurriedly grabbed my hand, her eyes filled with sorrow and grievance. Ziayuan, why did we become like this? Jia Yunshu's voice shook, her expression full of agony. I responded calmly, that is what I want to ask too. Why did it turn out like this? When Jia Yunshu caused me harm again and again for Song Jingnian's sake, I had questioned it loudly in my heart countless times. It doesn't matter anymore. Sister, this is the last time I will call you that. I wish you and Song Jingnian a happy life together. Don't come looking for me again. Just as Jia Yunshu wanted to continue pestering me, my next words struck her like a lightning bolt, making her stop in her tracks. I'm very grateful for the warmth and hope you once gave me. Please don't make me hate you. Jia Yunshu stood stiffly, her face turning pale instantly. She didn't squat on the ground until my figure had completely disappeared, as endless regret and sadness flooded her heart. Even the Iron Lady, who wouldn't flinch at a bullet, now had tears welling in her eyes as grief covered her face. In her mind, the image of that obedient boy whose eyes were full of admiration could no longer be reconciled with the person I am now. Jia Yunshu clearly realized that she was truly losing me. A leaf finally fell from the plane tree in late autumn, landing on Jia Yunshu's shoulder. There had never been a moment when Jia Yunshu was more certain of her feelings for me, but by the time she realized it, she had already lost me. The weather in Xianan was hot, but Jia Yunshu felt the air was freezing cold. Her body was numb and she couldn't move, looking in the direction where I disappeared. Sharp pain later surged in her heart, making the world turn dark. When I quietly left Jia Yunshu's life, it felt like a vacuum. A sense of sorrow struck her, and as her reason returned, she could quickly perceive Song Jingnian's disguise and find evidence of his framing. But why every time I was hurt would she turn a blind eye? lie. For half a year, Jia Yunshu had been frantically searching for news of me, even risking her future career, but she still couldn't penetrate the defense line of the National Defense University's decryption major. It wasn't until Jai Jiangguo couldn't bear to see his daughter's muddled state that he finally called an old friend. At the National Defense University, upon hearing news of me, Jia Yunshu rushed over immediately. She thought that after meeting and explaining everything clearly, things could return to how they were, but upon seeing me and my calm, indifferent gaze, Jia Yunshu realized how naive she was. My gaze no longer held the old admiration. That boy who was willing to share everything and was emotionally dependent on her had scattered with the wind, replaced by a stranger. Jia Yunshu wanted to explain several times, but thinking of her past actions, she couldn't open her mouth. She could only let me leave like an autumn plane tree, leaf that must eventually return to the earth. She stood under the tree for a long time. Looking at the fallen leaves on the ground, I again remembered the year she held my hand and said we would never be apart. Unfortunately, she broke her promise, and the harm she caused me perhaps far exceeded Song Jingnian's. At this moment, Jia Yunshu looked dazed and felt deep pain. She finally experienced the despair I felt when I completely gave up on the family and her before leaving. I didn't return to the dormitory but walked around the campus. I simply didn't want to face Jia Yunshu and my originally peaceful university life. I spent 7 years loving her, but unfortunately in this 18th year, Jia Yunshu personally destroyed all my expectations. Now she has come to the school, saying everything was a misunderstanding, but the scenes of being hurt keep flashing in my mind. I don't know whether to believe Jia Yunshu. The moment I saw Jia Yunshu, I knew very well that though I thought I had completely severed my feelings, I would still feel sad. I haven't completely let go after all. At this moment, before my eyes, a pair of long legs appeared, emitting a warm glow under the moonlight. I slowly looked up and saw Lin Kangxia. Lin Kangxia sat beside me, and together we looked toward the night sky. Speak it out, your heart will feel better. I had many words suppressed in my heart with no one to talk to. The years of hidden pain almost drove me crazy. Although I didn't know Lin Kangxia well, her appearance gave me enough sense of security. By the moonlight, I spoke of my own matters, my biased parents, the fiancé who betrayed me, and my broken self. My voice was gentle, as if speaking of things unrelated to me. Lin Kangxia rested her chin on her hand. Listening quietly, one spoke calmly and the other listened silently. Time seemed to freeze at this moment. Do you still love her? When I finished my story, Lin Kangxia turned her head, a hint of curiosity flashing in her beautiful eyes. Her calm voice couldn't hide a bit of surprise. I originally thought I would struggle and be unable to answer this question, but for some reason I got the answer in an instant. I don't love her anymore. I truly don't love her. When disappointment accumulates to the limit, I became insulated from family and love long ago. Lin Kangxia didn't expect me to answer so quickly. She was stunned for a long time, and a smile like bright fireworks appeared on her face, bringing me enough warmth. I must say I enjoy staying with this kind of Lin Kangxia. Then tell her, only by cutting off the past can you move toward the future. Lin Kangxia stood up and patted my shoulder. Go back and rest well. Get some sleep. Tomorrow will be better. I resolved my inner conflict and returned to the dormitory to fall into a deep sleep. When I woke up, the morning sun shone on my face and I felt relaxed. For the next few days I attended classes normally, but I often encountered Jia Yunshu, whether on the way to the classroom or the cafeteria, or even during evening self-study. I would meet Jia Yunshu on the road. She stood quietly by the roadside, looking at me tenderly and affectionately. Her valiant attire and beautiful, cold face became a beautiful scene throughout the campus. Gradually, people discovered the relationship between Jia Yunshu and me. In the winter of 1983, confined thoughts had not yet been fully liberated, and emotional matters could easily become issues of personal conduct. Rumors were surging. On the 6th night of Jia Yunshu's arrival at Bafing University, the hot Xiaonan finally welcomed a cold rain. I was reading in my dormitory when I heard my roommate say that a woman had been standing downstairs for a long time. I immediately understood who it was. After a long silence, I finally stood up and walked downstairs. I felt I should have a good talk with Jia Yunshu to explain everything clearly. Arriving downstairs and seeing the silhouette blurred by the heavy rain, I took a deep breath and walked forward. This first autumn rain of the year brought a thick chill. The silhouette in the hazy heavy rain stood below the dormitory building, letting herself get soaked, with only those eyes full of deep affection and helplessness looking at me as I approached. I looked at the girl in front of me, but my heart was extremely calm. In the past, if Jia Yunshu was even slightly happy, I would have wanted to pluck the moon from the sky to make her happy. Now, although Jia Yunshu was so sad and miserable, I remained emotionally stable and even felt a bit annoyed. Belated affection is cheaper than grass. The love I had guarded for many years and the woman I swore to protect for a lifetime had lost their original meaning through repeated favoritism. When I severed my feelings to apply for a decryption major to serve my country, Jia Yunshu told me everything was a misunderstanding. Perhaps their encounter was just a beautiful mistake. I held the umbrella over Jia Yunshu's head and reached out to wipe the water off her face. That gentle manner made Jia Yunshu's eyes glowed with radiance. It wasn't worth shaking my my head, a smile of relief appeared on my face as I looked up at the depths of the rain curtain hidden behind her. "A plane tree, thank you for what you did for me. It was you who helped me survive the coldest winter. In those years I was truly in despair, even more pain than the master in his struggle. But it was also you who let me down bit by bit. Do not try to cover up what you have done. The scars are always there, and it is impossible for them to disappear. Jia Yunshu, look at your current self. You are no longer the sister I once admired and loved." Jia Yunshu's face changed drastically. Her purple lips trembled and her throat made a vibrating sound as she shook her head desperately. She wanted to tell me she had always been the sister in my heart, but she met my calm and indifferent gaze. 1,000 words were stuck in her throat, unable to utter a single word. I helped her wipe the water droplets off her face, though she was still right in front of me. Jia Yunshu felt as if I was leaving. She desperately wanted to grab the man in front of her, but my words were like nails piercing her heart, causing blood to flow. Her entire world turned blood red. "Xiaoyuan, I'm sorry. I took a week's leave and I only have 1 week to see you. You don't want to be disturbed. So I just watched you silently." Her body teetered as she closed her eyes in pain. Seeing her cry, I no longer felt heartache, which meant I no longer loved Jia Yunshu. I left the umbrella for Jia Yunshu and turned toward the dormitory. This time I want a complete showdown with her, hoping we never meet again. Jia Yunshu, Song Jingnian, and Tiangxin's parents, the 4 of them will be happy together. Only the redundant me will dedicate my life to the country. I don't regret it. This is my choice and my fate. After cutting off my feelings, I must light a lamp for myself. Jia Yunshu threw away the umbrella and rushed forward, tightly hugging my waist from behind, her voice full of pleading. "Xiaoyuan, don't leave me. I was wrong, truly wrong." I didn't struggle, letting Jia Yunshu hug me. As I closed my eyes, I don't know how much time passed, but the heavy rain finally stopped. A bright moon pierced through the clouds, and cold moonlight fell on the plane tree by the playground. As the clouds broke and the moon appeared, Jia Yunshu hugging my shadow seemed engraved in a single moment. Jia Yunshu slowly let go, but a tearing pain appeared in her heart. Took a step forward without looking back. Jia Yunshu knelt on the ground, heartbroken, crying in pain. She felt she had completely lost me. At this moment she experienced the same despair I felt back then. That feeling was like a bone-deep ache, unforgettable for a lifetime. She understood and regretted it, but it was too late. The leave ended. Jia Yunshu left the National Defense University. On the day she left, she didn't come to say goodbye. She knew I wouldn't see her and understood I had severed my feelings. Jia Yunshu knew even better how ridiculously wrong she was. Actually, before coming, she already had a marriage application in her hand. As long as I signed my name, we would be a legal couple, but things developed unexpectedly. From my attitude, she saw that, let alone getting a certificate, we couldn't even return to how we were when facing each other. Her heart was broken, but she couldn't find an excuse. She was the one who personally sent me away, sprinkling salt on my wounds during those desperate and helpless nights. Now she truly felt the misery of despair. If you truly love someone, you choose not to disturb them. Jia Yunshu won't give up on me. She will use her own way to atone and make amends, telling me through her actions that she is still that sister from the Lin family who once held my hand and told me I wouldn't be lonely. On the day she left, the weather was gloomy. Sitting on the train back and watching the city shrink, Jia Yunshu closed her eyes. When she opened them again, her eyes flashed. With a cold chill, everyone who bullied me would have to pay the price, including herself. I didn't know Jia Yunshu's thoughts, nor did I have any interest. After clearing things up, I returned to a normal student life. My life besides studying was physical training. For the first half year, I studied alone, but later, Lin Kaixia appeared by my side. Since that night, I understood one truth: I cannot live according to others' views or be constrained by emotions. Before, I couldn't let go, desperately needing my parents' love and Jia Yunshu's approval, which led to intense internal conflict. So I no longer missed my cold-blooded family because they weren't worth it. I didn't care about others' gazes and walked with Lin Kaixia. Of course, there was no love involved, it was purely mutual. Learning, Lin Kaixia must have come from a very good family. She knew a lot and could get the latest study materials. When Lin Kaixia took out a computer programming book from her bag and could teach me the use of computers for decryption, I keenly sensed that I must seize this opportunity. From then on, Lin Kaixia stayed by my side, using her family's resources to help me find cutting-edge decryption materials. I would also help Lin Kaixia with whatever I could. To outsiders, the two of us looked like a couple, so gradually no students gossiped or spoke nonsense anymore. At that time, behavioral issues were viewed quite openly in school. Everyone was young and easily accepted new things, especially college students with open minds welcoming the new wave of thought. Couples gradually appeared in school. The instructor only held one meeting to tell everyone to be mindful, then never interfered again. Thus, my being with Lin Kaixia was a natural revolutionary bond. A photo of us studying side by side in the library appeared. Thousands of miles away in a dark room of the district compound, Jia Yunshu sat on the sofa with her head down, wine bottles strewn across the floor, the air filled with the strong smell of alcohol. This was the second time she had drunk since joining. The first was the day I confessed to her when she drank heavily and hesitated all night. Second time was seeing me with Lin Kaixia, which hurt her heart. Angry roars came from next door. The Yi parents were punishing Song Jingnian. His dirty and dark methods had been exposed, completely ruining his reputation. He couldn't find a job in a factory and no one would hire him for manual labor, with no means of livelihood. Song Jingnian could only stay at the Yi home, home, but the Yi parents no longer indulged him. He had to face a thousand-fold punishment for how he once framed me. Song Jingnian could not endure the torment and knelt before Jia Yunshu to beg for help. Jia Yunshu's punishment would only be harsher than the Yi parents. From then on, Song Jingnian lived a life worse than death. They were all using their own ways to help me seek revenge. Over 3 years passed, and Song Jingnian was tortured until only half his life remained. With dark circles every day and an unstable mind, he really developed depression. The Yi parents would hide in their room and cry every night after tormenting Song Jingnian. The elders missed their son. They cried, knelt, and begged, but Jia Yunshu simply would not tell them this was their deserved punishment. Finally, graduation season at National Defense University arrived. One day, Jia Yunshu received a call and suddenly left the compound. Now it was her turn to atone. Everyone to their positions. This mission was critical, with no mistakes allowed. In the summer of 1987, across the country, a wave of newly graduated college students supporting the Great Northwest arose, but many safety issues followed. Back then, being admitted to university was a matter of bringing honor to one's ancestors, so every talent was extremely precious to the country. The decryption major of National Defense University was among them, but they didn't take the usual path. Instead, they established a research center in the Northwest to secretly conduct computer password cracking research. This was a highly classified mission involving future modernized warfare. Thus, after these defense students graduated, they were directly assigned to the Great Northwest, while foreign hostile forces saw them as enemies, tried every means to sabotage, so a special warfare brigade was assigned for the escort. Uncle Jai Yun was the leader of the mission, hidden. He stayed in the shadows to avoid detection, standing on a hilltop in uniform, watching the convoy below with sharp eyes, but when looking at the lead car, his gaze would soften. Uncle Jai Yun had earned many merits over the years but refused promotion just to wait for a chance. When the decryption major was going to the Great Northwest, he immediately applied for the mission. Since I left the courtyard, Uncle Jai Yun felt staying behind was meaningless. He wanted to become the sister who once protected me and tell me he had never changed. His redemption was secret protection, and at the destination, there would be a chance to be with me. This was the only thing he could do. In the convoy, I looked at the endless Gobi Desert outside. As we went deeper into the Northwest, the environment became harsher. I finally experienced the hardships outside school and realized that the training was nothing compared to this environment. 4 years of university made me mature and steady. I graduated at the top of my class. I became the most outstanding representative of these students. With a heavy mission, we went to the Great Northwest. I felt the convoy stop several times, but it soon resumed. I didn't know several attacks had occurred outside, all intercepted by the escort until we entered the research center. The escort team went from 200 to just over 100 people, showing the intensity of the battles. After reaching the destination, everyone immediately started working without rest. I soon discovered the communication equipment was outdated and submitted a report to replace it. I had written influential papers in school that inspired national defense information security. The superiors put me in charge, not just for training but to take security to a new level. I didn't disappoint. In just 3 months, the research center was completely transformed. Moreover, the password defense capability was upgraded. Only 3 months into my work, I had already earned a first-class merit. While working, I always felt someone watching me from behind, but every time I turned, no one was there, so I thought it was fatigue. Once, a rainstorm in the Gobi destroyed an important communication station. I was conducting a critical experiment and rushed out to save it. The rain was heavy and the situation dangerous, but I risked everything to fix the station, only to fall into a trap and get stuck in a mountain cave. I fell into the cave on my way back. The storm made communication impossible. I stayed there for 3 days, and as I neared death, my vision blurred and I saw a beam of light. A familiar silhouette walked out of the light, helped me up, and climbed out step by step. The person wasn't physically strong but was full of power. Reaching the top, I breathed the fresh air. The feeling of survival was wonderful. I wanted to thank my savior, but the person handed me over to the medics and vanished. I tried to call out but had no strength. I soon fell unconscious. I stayed in the infirmary for 3 days. Once I recovered, I searched for my savior, but everyone kept quiet. The research center director told me to focus on research, saying protecting researchers was their duty and not to worry as anyone would do it. I nodded and didn't think much, but learned from others about that special team's existence that had been protecting us secretly since we left school. 3 years passed in a flash. I developed the second-generation communication system, greatly enhancing the military's informationized combat capabilities. Over these 3 years, at least 70 attacks were successfully blocked, but many comrades were sacrificed. Fortunately, we succeeded in thwarting the enemy's conspiracy and perfectly completed the tasks assigned by the organization. You can now go to a larger stage to handle even more difficult matters. The director pulled out a photo, placed it on the table, hesitated for a moment, and his voice turned low. I didn't want to tell you for fear of distracting you, but since you're leaving, I won't hide it. In this protection mission, over 200 special ops soldiers were sacrificed. sacrificed. I trembled all over, my eyes turning red as I raised a glass of wine to toast them. The director nodded and sighed. You should be very familiar with the group commander, right? The group commander? My eyes were filled with confusion. I didn't know any group commander. For some reason, the image of Uncle Jai-yun appeared in my mind. I shook my head violently and chuckled bitterly. Uncle Jai-yun should still be at the district compound, marrying Song Jingnian by now. They probably have children by now. How could he come to the Gobi Desert for a mission? The director's next words struck me like a lightning bolt. It turned out the group commander was Uncle Jai-yun, and he had been secretly protecting me for 3 years. The time I fell into the cave, it was Uncle Jai-yun who risked great danger to rescue me. He even injured a leg because of that. He was shot 3 times. One bullet almost pierced his heart and nearly killed him, yet he still refused to leave and insisted on staying at the front line. Today is the day the group commander leaves. The director probably guessed my relationship with the group commander, so he gave a kind reminder, even though Uncle Jai-yun had strictly warned him. I looked at the photo on the table. It was actually a scene of myself and Lin Kaingxia standing shoulder to shoulder in the library. Although Lin Kaingxia's image was torn off, I recognized it at a glance. Was Uncle Jai-yun really nearby? Then why didn't we meet for 3 years? My expression was complex as I recalled the director's words. For 3 years, he blocked several bullets for me and saved me several times, but never took credit or even wanted to see me. Uncle Jai-yun was just hiding in the shadows, silently guarding my safety. I suddenly remembered crouching under a sycamore tree crying when I was 11. Uncle Jai-yun appeared like an angel, took my hand and said he would protect me for life. I thought our meeting at the National Defense University was the last and I'd never see him again, but Uncle Jai-yun's actions shook me deeply. I am no longer that innocent youth from before, but thinking of Uncle Jai-yun's actions, I felt an indescribable sadness. I took a deep breath, grabbed the photo, and rushed outside. I arrived outside the research center just in time to see a jeep driving away. I shouted toward the front, Uncle Jai-yun. There was no response from the car. I vaguely felt that Uncle Jai-yun was inside, but why didn't he respond in the departing car? Uncle Jai-yun saw me rushing out through the rearview mirror. His cold, handsome face showed emotional turmoil, but he quickly suppressed it. The guard hesitated. Uncertainly, Group Commander, should we turn back? Uncle Jai-yun glanced at his empty left sleeve, closed his eyes, and said, let's go. To protect me during a life-and-death struggle with the enemy, his left hand was blown off, leaving him disabled. This time, the organization insisted he leave for treatment. Uncle Jai-yun originally wanted to keep protecting me, but he knew that in his state, he would only be a burden. Thus, he could only agree. He was guarding my safety in his own silent way. Unfortunately, the road ahead is long and he can no longer accompany me. Uncle Jai-yun felt immense pain. For 3 years he had watched my busy back in the lab countless times, wanting to go and accompany me, but thinking of the many times he had hurt me, he stopped. Truly loving someone means choosing not to disturb them. Moreover, in his current state, how could he be worthy of me? I deserved a better partner. Uncle Jai-yun left without telling me. He had come but didn't tell me, and I left for 10 years. After nearly 20 years of reform and opening up, the country has undergone earth-shaking changes, especially in national defense information security construction. The 4th generation has made great progress. Through the efforts of generations, although it hasn't reached international advanced levels, it maintains high-speed development. As a national defense student who graduated in 1987, after more than 10 years of tempering, I gradually became an expert in the information field. I devoted all my time to building the team's informatization, becoming the youngest leader and now even the chief expert. I have been rooted in the depths of the desert for years, living a simple life without enjoying any good treatment. I only want to serve my country. The superiors saw me working so hard and forced me to take leave. I was compelled to leave the experimental base and return to the big city. Due to my sensitive and special status, I am always protected by special personnel with a jeep leading the way. But I didn't like such scenes, so I left on my own with my guard, hands behind my back. My first stop was the National Defense University for the '98 graduation ceremony. I gave a report speech on stage. Below me were naive freshmen and their eyes were full of admiration. As a prominent figure in the decryption major, becoming a big shot sitting with the principal before 40 made me the student's idol. Looking at those eyes full of admiration, I remembered the way I looked at Uncle Jai-yun back then. More than 10 years have passed, and my love for Uncle Jai-yun has long been forgotten. My memory of him stops at the jeep leaving the Gobi Desert in the great northwest. 10 years have passed, yet there has been no news from him. I once called Uncle Jai-yun's unit hoping to express my gratitude, but they said he had already chosen to retire and was no longer with the unit. I sat on the rostrum looking at the students. They are the future of national defense, just like I was back then. The same, but my thoughts drifted to my hometown, wanting to see Uncle Jai-yun. I don't know why, but after being forced to take leave, I felt I needed to do something. It wasn't about romance with Uncle Jai-yun. At this age, I have already dedicated dedicated my life to the party and the people. I left the university and immediately returned to my hometown. Without disturbing anyone, I arrived at the old compound and stood under that plane tree. More than 10 years have passed and the plane tree still looks the same, except the ground is now paved with asphalt instead of yellow soil. The compound hasn't been renovated, still having red bricks and green tiles. I stood outside the courtyard looking at where I used to live. I didn't miss Tiangson's parents. They had Song Jingnian, so even if I died outside, they probably wouldn't shed a tear. Returning home was to visit Jai Jiangguo and to thank Uncle Jai Yun in person, but after inquiring, Jai Jiangguo had left the city due to a transfer. As for Uncle Jai Yun's retirement, everyone was unclear. He might have followed Jai Jiangguo to the north. My parents, whom I least wanted to see, had also moved away for some reason. I felt relieved yet slightly disappointed. My time was already limited, and I was focused on returning to work, so I didn't stay long. I stood under the plane tree again for a long time, during which I received a call. It was from my wife Lin Kaian. "You've been away for so long. Now that you're on leave, won't you come home? Your son misses you, Dad." Hearing my son's voice, a gentle smile appeared on my resolute face. I hung up the phone and got into the car. A gust of wind blew and a leaf fell. Autumn had come. I didn't notice that in Uncle Jai Yun's house by the window, a figure was silently watching me leave. Uncle Jai Yun had not followed Jai Jiangguo away. Instead, he stayed in the courtyard to wait. He didn't know what he was waiting for, but he just waited. But when I actually returned, Uncle Yun didn't have the courage to see me. He could only stand in the shadows, silently protecting me like the Gobi Desert. Before, he had no face to see me, and now the courage to see me. All Uncle Jai Yun could do was offer blessings. Once he was sure my car had left, he slowly went downstairs to thank the neighbors. If not for them hiding it, I probably would have discovered the truth. Carrying a basket, he came to the cemetery. Here were the graves of the Yi family parents, and not far away was a lonely grave. Just 5 years ago, Song Jingnian finally couldn't bear the torment and killed the Yi family parents, who once loved him most, with a sharp knife. He suffered from extremely severe depression. After killing the Yi parents, he slit his wrists in the bathroom. By the time they were discovered, only 3 bodies remained in the house. Uncle Jai Yun used his connections to suppress the news and didn't tell me, not wanting me to be sad. Looking at the Yi parents' tombstones, Uncle Jai Yun sighed and looked up at the sky. "Ziayuan is back. He is doing very well. You don't need to worry. After you left, only the living suffer. We did wrong, so we should accept punishment. Maybe this is the will of heaven. I hope Ziayuan will be happy forever. You would think so too, right?" Uncle Jai Yun stood up to leave, his shadow dragging behind him in the sunset. Long and thin, a lonely curtain call. He remembered when I confessed to him at 17, my young face flushing red, eyes filled with excitement and anticipation. Like a bright sun, if he had agreed back then, perhaps everything would be different. Sadly, there are no ifs. He can only live in endless regret until his life ends. Back at the garrison district, I returned home to see my wife sitting on the sofa lulling our son to sleep, humming a lullaby, her face glowing with maternal radiance. Lin Kaian and I didn't marry until our 30s. I didn't expect she would wait for me all along. I walked to her and looked at the child in her arms. That young, tender face looked exactly like my younger self. I couldn't help reaching out to touch him. Lin Kaian glared and whispered, "He just fell asleep, don't wake him. Later you'll have to soothe him." I smiled sheepishly. In this home I have never had a say. Looking at my wife and son, a strong sense of guilt welled up in my heart. All these years working away from home, I had no time to spend with them, so I naturally felt very guilty. I gently hugged my wife from behind, smelled her hair, and closed my eyes. I have a perfect family. No matter how busy I am, I will love my wife and son and won't let them suffer as I did in my childhood. Everything will be fine, just like how our motherland is becoming prosperous step